The year is 2009. You're about my age, and you sound something like this.
Yeah, that's right, you little bitch. Suck my balls.
Or you're a little older and more mature, so you sound something like this.
Fuck you, gay boy, you piece of shit. Gay boy, quit sucking off dudes and play. Come on.
Gay boy.
Gay boy. Gay boy. Fucking gay marriage never gets passed. Have fun being single.
The point is, you're a kid. An underread, overstimulated, shithead kid coming of age in the middle of a global recession, and you play video games. And by now, you had been exposed to some YouTube gaming content. Often these were Halo 3 machinimas with titles like, Gay Ninja Hacker Steals My Recon Armor, lol.
Oh yeah, come on guys. Only guys, know what I'm saying? Come on, man. Yeah, you know I like that when I was a little boy. Yeah, more. Yeah, just us guys out in the woods having a good time.
Aside from their overall cringiness and frequent homophobia, there's no getting away from that. These titles betray the infancy of the genre. It wasn't a fleshed out medium. It was amateurish because it was stupid teenagers making content for stupid teenagers for fun, with no expectation of monetary reward.
The long-awaited video game Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 is expected to sell millions of copies over the next few weeks.
Popular new video game actually allows you to be a terrorist and kill people. Take a look.
You know you have a huge game on your hands when you have a celebrity lounge. Tons of stars have shown up, including Ice-T, who literally refuses to give up the controller. I'm not kidding.
This is what all the fuss was about. It was Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2.
You know, we're expecting it to sell over 10 million in the run-up to Christmas on a global basis.
It's an incredibly popular game. The original sold about 13 million titles, and it's a really violent game. So the real issue is...
It's really addictive. After every game, you just carry on playing, and you just lose track of time, and it's just endless fun.
It's been said plenty of times before, but Modern Warfare 2 was kind of a phenomenon when it came to online gaming. And contrary to what the hacks on the news would say when dusting off their video games are why society's fucked up segments, it had nothing to do with the campaign. In fact, this felt like the first Call of Duty game where the single player was so secondary as to not be the point at all. This was a product where no one gave a shit about anything except the multiplayer. Why the multiplayer was so addictive is hard to place, though it might have to do with aesthetics. There was just something about that everyone just kind of instantly liked. Beyond that, the game was legitimately challenging, especially for people like me who were bad at it. In fact, in trying to re-familiarize myself with this game, I had to come to grips with some hard truths. Number one, I suck. Number two, the game punishes me for sucking. Ah! God damn it. Get him. Ah! Jesus Christ. Well, there you go. Oh, that's me. Oh, wonderful. Fuck, man. But back in 2009, when I was a 13-year-old boy using laptop stock video, I could not accept these facts about myself. I was convinced that with a little increased game knowledge, I would be good at the game. So I did something a lot of kids did for the first time back then. I went on YouTube and I looked up good Modern Warfare 2 players. What I and thousands of other kids like me found was the earliest edition of Modern Warfare 2 commentary videos, gameplay videos with relatively minimal editing and relaxed DIY style commentary. And the instant success of these videos seemed to surprise even those making them.
Cool that there were so many people from so many places that are watching my videos. I can't tell you enough how I appreciate that. It's really cool just knowing there are people from US, Sweden, Australia, New Zealand, and Philippines, and
Hey everyone, it's Spider by NextGenTactics.com. This is our 30,000 subscriber celebration video. Man, we gotta start doing these every 20,000 subs, because 10,000 subs comes way too quick. But that's awesome. Thanks a lot, guys. We appreciate it. And that's
I made a very, from what I can see, a very good first impression. And I was looking at the video, the statistics of the video on the day that it was released and the day after it was released. And surprisingly enough, it was the number 10 highest rated video on YouTube, which is effing insane.
The other crucial piece was Machinima. Now, there have been plenty of videos on Machinima documenting its less than ethical business practices, but that's not my point. My point is, Machinima represented the first chance for random gamers to make real money playing video games. And that kind of changed everything.
And yes, in fact, I have been contacted by Machinima, and I will soon be posting videos on their channel, which is a very good thing for me, because then I can earn some money for what it is that I do, and money buys food, and food is tasty.
The scale of the revelation that you could make full-time job money playing video games as long as you uploaded to Machinima is reflected in the desperation of content creators to get on the channel. This was the realization of a childhood dream, and Machinima was showtime.
Please, and I can't emphasize this anymore, please be sure to rate and comment on the Machinima video. Not over here, not the trailer. I don't give a shit about the trailer, because there is no greater incentive to making more videos than higher comments and ratings.
It's pronounced money.
I've sent a lot of videos to Machinima, I think like 5 now, of Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer, and they're really swamped with videos right now, and it takes like upwards of a week to get one put up on their channel.
We've partnered up with Machinima.com to bring our videos to a larger audience. Most of our videos will be uploaded to Machinima Respawn, which you can find on YouTube.
My week was pretty good, I can't complain. I had 3 Machinima videos up. If you haven't seen those already, I'll put the links in the description.
But I have not uploaded a game recently to my actual channel. A lot of them have just been links to other people's channels. And then I'm waiting on Machinima to upload some videos. So obviously as soon as I get those up, then I'll link them to you.
And oh my god, Machinima's posted a new video of mine. It's flawless with the Barrett 50 cal. Go click it and rate it and favorite and thumbs up and everything. You guys know what I mean. And that's pretty much it. I really appreciate it if you watch it, whatever. You guys know.
These fairly standard sounding injunctions to go like my video on Machinima's channel were actually evidence of a major transformation. That is, the emergence of a new job market, playing video games as a job. And Machinima was just the vehicle. But its success alone showed how quickly this was all picking up steam.
Because what was happening was gameplay commentary was blowing up like the bottom third of 2009, right?
Okay,
Summer on. And what was happening is the Machinima channel was getting like clogged, right? So they have all their animations, their Red vs. Blues, their Freeman's Mines, all that. And then there's gameplay. People are loving watching it, and Machinima knows that they're onto something. And so they created Respawn to separate that.
And then you guys have the show. Like I remember clearly because it was such a pinnacle moment, pivotal moment in gaming history, in not just gaming, like in gaming entertainment history. If Machinima Respawn didn't exist the way that it existed when you guys made it exist, the industry wouldn't be the way that it is today.
In looking back at an interview with Hutch, one of the earliest and most prominent COD YouTubers from this era, I was reminded of a key fact. YouTube ads made a ton of money at the time, meaning you certainly did not need the views you need today to make a living. And to put this in context, let's remember what these guys were doing often just months before.
Now, granted, this is based on Wikipedia articles, so it isn't bulletproof, but as far as I can tell, Hutch was a part-time waiter. Only Use Me Blade was a part-time bouncer. C Nanners was a wedding photographer. Wings of Redemption worked in a factory. White Boy 7th Street never had a job, and Tabes was still a student. Suddenly, they had money, and they were making it in a way long thought to be impossible. As 20-somethings in the Great Recession, it was as though they stumbled through a minefield to find a lump of gold. And it wasn't in a pot, it was in an easy chair. At least it seemed that way for a while. Before we get into any of the rapid changes that began to upset this economic niche, a harbinger that this career wasn't pure pinch me I'm dreaming fun were the first cases of burnout. Hutch, as he has expressed on his own YouTube channel and in interviews, experienced an early and high-profile case of this fatigue.
So, as of the time you guys are watching this video, which will probably be Wednesday, right? I will be in Sonoma County, no longer in Los Angeles, and no longer working for Machinima. I don't know how else to put it. I think it's time for me to move on. This experience it's been 4 years for me since the time I bought a capture card in October of 2008, and purely out of childlike fun decided to record myself playing video games.
Anyway, YouTubing, you gonna do it?
Highly unlikely.
Are you still gonna be playing video games?
Probably not too much at first, but I imagine I'll play video games the rest of my life. But yeah. I don't know if I'm ever going to be playing as much video games as I was down here. 8 hours a day for 40 hours a week. Nah, whatever.
It turned out that, for some people, playing video games as a full-time job was a little like saying when you grew up you would only eat candy and never go to bed at age 6. That is, it was a fantasy of doing a fun thing without moderation. But that didn't matter because it was a fantasy. But moreover, and maybe more importantly, the things we do in our free time for fun are things we choose to do. We can start doing them whenever and stop whenever. Make them mandatory activities to pay the bills and attach to them financial decisions, a work routine, the demands of a growing audience. They become stressful. And in these early days, this wasn't a scenario anyone considered. Internet celebrities, YouTubers, influencers, these were only starting to emerge as categories, let alone gaming personalities. So to be part of that early wave raised more questions of how did I do this than of why. But soon enough, they would start asking. We'll return to this theme later, but for now let's talk about how the state of the YouTube games industry was shifting. This part of the narrative is complex and covers a lot of ground, so I'm doing my best to summarize here. I mark Hutch's April 2012 exit from Machinima as the end of that early golden age for YouTube gaming, but you could argue that it was already long over. For one thing, by then the secret was out. Playing video games produced a huge amount of views for relatively easily produced, repeatable content. Enter the multi-channel networks. Basically, other corporate entities looked at Machinima's success and thought, let's copy them. These competitors formed other multi-channel networks focused on gaming, such as the Game Station, created by Maker Studios, which later became Polaris. The Game Station focused on Blizzard games, retro games, and RPGs, in stark contrast with Machinima's console FPS emphasis. The Game Station was influential in its own right, elevating content creators like Total Biscuit, the Yogscast, which later became its own network, Husky Starcraft, Angry Joe, and in late 2012, PewDiePie. By early 2014, this MCN would become part of one of the largest media conglomerates in the world, as Maker Studios was bought out and renamed by these guys. Other gaming MCNs, such as TGN, which focused on MMOs, and Omnia Media, which focused on signing megastar YouTubers, also sprung up around this time. MCNs increasingly not only promised monetization, but also protection from copyright claims, an emerging issue for creators. The Content ID system introduced in 2013 targeted content specifically owned by MCNs for infringing material. Ironically, the recourse for such claims was also mediated by the same MCNs, who had the most connections to YouTube and could most effectively dispute the claims. Thus, having corporate backing and interlocutors who could reliably seek help from YouTube management became increasingly necessary to succeed on the platform. In addition, individual YouTuber brands were exploding. Certain bigger gaming personalities such as Scene-Anners, who left Machinima right before Hutch, and White Boy 7th Street, Yogscast, Captain Sparkle, Syndicate, began to become established YouTube behemoths. They, like the platform itself, were going mainstream. Another significant change was the diversification in major games with a sustainable YouTube audience and interest. For a long time, COD simply dwarfed everything else on the site. But in 2010, you got the Minecraft explosion, a World of Warcraft content boom parallel to its peak subscriber numbers in early 2011, StarCraft 2's release and growth around the same time, Skyrim's boom in late 2011, and later the rise of League of Legends and CSGO in 2012. Some of these multiplayer games had competitive pro scenes that lent themselves to the emerging live streaming platform Justin.tv, later rebranded as Twitch. This platform, too, soon got its own stable of popular games and popular channels.
Oh, it's still getting hotter.
His mind is blowing up. While this was all very exciting, for gaming content creators, it meant more competition, not just within YouTube, but with other platforms altogether. Weirdly, this gaming gold rush and diversification didn't seem to redound to the benefit of Machinima, or at least its early COD YouTube stars. It seemed the Respawn model got stale over the course of 2010 to 2012. For one thing, Machinima basically tried to sign every YouTuber, and for a while everyone tried to make COD videos because they saw how popular they were getting. This meant you would encounter so many of these creators that eventually the new ones kind of all blurred together. It became hard to stand out. Adding to that, COD as a gaming phenomenon seemed to peak around Modern Warfare 2. Subsequent games in the series felt very similar and kind of faded in terms of interest generated on YouTube. The focus on Call of Duty, while totally understandable, left Respawn and other COD channels churning out content that, in the long run, would fall out of fashion. The fear of irrelevance among COD YouTubers circa 2012 is reflected in a significant degeneration of their content. Most prominently, White Boy 7th Street pioneered the unholy trinity of eye-catching thumbnails, trolling instead of high-level play, and giveaways in exchange for comments, likes, and subscription.
I just like to give back to the people who gave so much to me, because my goats are awesome out there. You guys always support me no matter what, and I like to give back to you. So, and I got a little motive behind it. Yeah, all you have to do is 2 simple rules. 1, follow me on Key. Add me as a friend and post on my wall. The rules are simple. Comment on the video that I'm gonna link in the description. The prizes we're gonna give to you guys is an iPad, an iPod, 5 premium gaming headsets, and 25 PSN codes, 25 Xbox.
Needless to say, all of this kind of sucked, especially the giveaways. The giveaways in particular violated some of YouTube's content policies at the time, and in cases where they are exclusive to people who had paid for things, such as Twitch subscriptions, they were actually illegal under US law. But such were the costs of remaining relevant in the shrinking Call of Duty job market. Quick note here, guys. For this next section of the video, I seek to prove that, yes, YouTube started deprioritizing certain kinds of content, and those content creators started to earn less money over the next few years. This is hard to prove because there's not a lot of evidence, but I did my best to gather it together. However, some friends of mine who watched this said, "We believe you, and we don't need to be told this or see all the evidence," and it kind of slows down the pace of the video. So if you want to just take this at face value or not be bored, please skip ahead to this point on the screen. Thank you. Note over. Finally, maybe the most significant shift for the prospects of these gamers was financial. This is so complicated that it almost deserves its own section or video or series of videos, but I'm just going to do my best. An essential question in all of this is, how much money were people making from YouTube, and if and how that income changed? The answer to this question is vexingly complicated and inexact, but still revealing. That said, precise figures are impossible to know with certainty due to the complexity of the data, and most of all, YouTube's secrecy about it. In fact, a peer-reviewed academic article on this subject, which I rely on later in this section, begins with the sentence, "To this date, it is difficult to find high-level statistics on YouTube that paint a fair picture of the platform in its entirety." Part of this quandary is the nature of how ad revenue works on YouTube. It's dictated by a complex web of algorithms determined by cost per impression, cost per click, and other such metrics like CPA, CPL, and CTR, as well as the device the user uses, the category of content being watched, the actual locations of members of the audience, keywords, AdSense market trends, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Basically, tons of factors. But suffice it to say, due to changes in YouTube's goals and business model, as well as those of advertisers, it has become increasingly hard for small and mid-sized YouTubers to succeed financially on the platform. This is most true, or at least most visible in recent years, and since the adpocalypse in Q1 of 2017, but it was a fact long before then. People might gainsay this conclusion by pointing to examples of extreme wealth generated on current YouTube, or the platform's rising revenues as a whole. However, in the broad strokes, the evidence is fairly clear. Increased moderation and adjustments to algorithms, as well as increased scrutiny from and tools for advertisers looking to monitor content, have most hurt medium-sized, moderately successful YouTubers. A quick note here. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to be referring a lot to medium-sized YouTubers. By that, I mean it as a stand-in for our COD YouTubers, though you could take it more generally. The fact is, while there were a few breakout stars like CNanners who became giants, many successful COD YouTubers saw themselves in the 5-digit subscriber range by the end of 2010, which was good. But over the course of the next 2 to 3 years, many of these channels would experience a significant slackening in growth, which was not just worrying on its own, but plunging backwards into this middle-of-the-pack YouTube channel range ended up being terrible for them financially in the long run. This decline was due in large part to the changes in the business that is YouTube. For one thing, YouTube has always been more concerned about growth and market share than short-term profitability. But it appears that YouTube's early approach to taking over the marketplace would prove friendlier to average YouTubers than it would in later years. For instance, a 2015 article in the Wall Street Journal cites the 2010 introduction of skippable ads and the 2012 expansion of the partnership program for content creators as early examples of YouTube trying to develop a more consistent and long-term user base. These changes also helped spawn that early crop of professional YouTubers. The problem for this approach, as the article states, was that many of these mid-sized partner channels failed. Moreover, around 2012, YouTube became increasingly concerned with expanding beyond its core teen audience, a problem that would take years of successive tweaks to the algorithms and armies of content moderators to solve. Now, we'll never know the exact ways in which the YouTube algorithms were manipulated over the course of years in order to prioritize certain kinds of content and not others. But the long-range impacts of these manipulations, as well as their overall goals, are quite obvious. Today, it's relatively easy to see the logical outcomes of such a policy. For example, in a 2018 Polygon article, the author argues that over the course of the 2010s, YouTube could no longer promise advertiser safety based on the DIY community that drew brands to the platform in the first place. As such, they relied on a small group of creators almost guaranteed to keep advertisers happy, but started to put the focus on Hollywood stars. This more mainstream, less UGC-friendly approach has by now become core to YouTube's long-term vision. As a detailed 2019 article in The Verge states, YouTube's pitch decks to advertisers increasingly seem to feature videos from household celebrity names, not creative amateurs. Whatever hope there once was of getting by as a mid-sized, moderately successful YouTuber, as the 2010s rolled on, it was increasingly becoming clear that that was not the direction the platform was headed. Being a mid-sized YouTuber meant real hardship, financial and otherwise. Indeed, a report from Influencer Marketing Hub in 2021 concludes that the middle years of a YouTube channel's life are often the most difficult. The channel owners often need to work full-time creating video content, but people only see them as mildly influential, and the channels certainly aren't generating a full-time income. This mainstream reorientation of YouTube's priorities thus accelerated a trend that was starting to appear anyway. Medium-sized, once stable YouTubers were struggling, while the most dominant channels were, mostly, seeing their wealth balloon. In other words, it was looking like a pyramid scheme. An academic study published in 2018 by German professor Matthias Bartel helped to investigate this trend, and one of its important findings was that over 85% of views went to the top 3% of YouTube channels. Keep in mind, due to the sampling methods, this is a fairly conservative estimate. Bartel himself says that the number could be as high as 95%. Bartel describes this as a macro manifestation of the rich get richer phenomenon, driving a convergence of views towards a few content providers, and caused in part by YouTube's search and recommendation algorithms and video promotion sales. So, what ended up happening to our COD YouTubers? Here, let's take a big step back and look at the entire tableau. In the long run, from about 2010 to 2015, all this change meant strong disincentives for the workaday, mid-sized COD YouTuber. He was an early adopter when he bought his capture card in 2009, but he also kind of lucked into his career, a career that, he was learning, required adaptation. This adaptation was neither linear nor obvious, and at this time too, there weren't so many options when it came to cash infusions. Sponsorships and Patreons were not at all common, so if his ad revenue was down, he was kind of screwed. He was not only finding the space he once occupied comfortably more crowded, more corporate, more given to trends and gimmicks, and less interested in COD, but now YouTube itself was beginning to shift its business model away from cultivating channels like his. He still had options: do his best to develop a core following and personal brand, try to get a good deal from a strong MCN, branch out from COD and his content, try exploiting trends and gimmicks. But all of these options required a keen eye for market trends and a finger constantly in the wind. Or he could kinda just not do any of these, or do so late and unenthusiastically, and languish, hoping the money he pulled in would be enough, even as his views declined. Many, it seems, chose some version of this option. It's unsurprising that many such creators around this time quit YouTube altogether or moved their primary focus over to streaming. and this shift to streaming would forever define the nature of their occupation. At least in the COD community, streaming started as a relative novelty, but soon became a behemoth, growing alongside YouTube's own rise. Before the precipitous decline of the COD YouTube scene, streaming was already becoming a significant part of COD content. Take Woody's gamertag, for example. We can see how, in 2010, his first few streams are done for the novelty. This can mix things up, but it's certainly not the new normal for the channel.
Another thing I wanted to talk about is a live stream that's coming up. So, I've started live streaming more just because it's a neat way for me to interact with the community, right? Like in a video like this, I talk about me or I talk about the game, but I don't really get to talk back to you.
However, by the time 2012 rolls around, we can see that streaming and stream announcements have become a significant chunk of videos on the channel. This wasn't just a change of pace. This was a substantial chunk of income. As the decline in Call of Duty views and interest took effect by the early 2010s, for many, streaming seemed to promise the potential of rebooting a sliding YouTube career. Here, for example, is Trumpf, with an F, a once well-known MW2 YouTuber who, after some years of relative inactivity and decline on YouTube, made this announcement.
What's going on, guys? This is Trumpf, and welcome to a vlog. This is something I haven't done in a while, but I needed to do this because I decided I'm going to take the month of March off from my regular job, and I'm going to pursue something that makes me happy. Streaming and making videos and just interacting with the community is what I like doing. It's what I really enjoy doing. So I figured, why not give it a shot? Also on stream, okay, this is the thing. I'm going to be streaming every single day. This month is really going to be the test month for me to see if I can do this kind of thing for, some kind of duration of time.
For others, like Blame Truth, streaming was a way to continue to make money gaming without having to deal with YouTube's often hidden glitches, whims, and obstacles to growth. After a 2-year hiatus from YouTube, Blame Truth uploaded a video explaining his absence from the platform.
When I stopped posting on this channel, it was because YouTube had basically told me that this channel would never get bigger, this channel would never grow, this channel would essentially be dead in the water. And I let them win in a way. I didn't just let the YouTube corporate machine win, but I let bad luck win. If you guys want to stick around for the ride, I hope you do. You can like the video. You can follow me on Twitch. I stream on Twitch now. The link to that's in the video description. You can stay subscribed. If you're new, you can subscribe. And I'll bring you guys videos until I'm dead. YouTube's gonna have to kill me. I'm gonna be 100 years old, catheter shoved up my wiener, shit in the bedpan.
While he resumed uploading to YouTube, to this day, Blame Truth's channel description reads as follows. Today, I'm able to do this as a full-time job due to ad revenue and Twitch streaming. Although YouTube was my start, I mainly do Twitch now, and I stream about 5 days a week. So follow me there for live gameplay. For many others, however, there wasn't one moment or impetus that caused them to focus on streaming. Rather, gradually, streaming morphed from something they did every now and then to their main focus. And of course, there is a clear logic to streaming instead of YouTubing. For one thing, you can, if you have the stamina, more or less stream all day. Therefore, you can maximize the amount of time you are exposed to an audience. So too can you take advantage of a direct path to revenue, dodging all the AdSense and monetization problems that come with YouTube by soliciting donations and subscriptions directly from fans. as such, a dedicated streamer with a core, which is not to say large, following can make enough money to get by each time they stream, day by day, often every day. For some COD YouTubers who turn to streaming, particularly Wings of Redemption, this dollars and cents accounting of each stream was made explicit to the viewer.
It looks like we don't have very many viewers right now, so I might just end the stream. I don't do this shit for money. I have goals. Like, I want to make $50 every stream. That's my goal, to make $50 worth of donations every stream. But the money part of it, that $50 is just to cover my bills. No, my bills are like everything added up. My bills are like, no, I got the car payment now. Let's see, let's call it $1,700 is what I have. My bills are a month right now, and I usually make that with subscriptions. Literally fucking 20 of my last like 23 donations have been chargebacks. Let's see how many legit donations we have. 0. We got $1 of legit donations. Well, $4.
While this was, understandably, a major turnoff to fans, it's not as though Wings was the only streamer who was painfully aware of his financial targets. Everyone needs to hit their benchmarks. In a sense, Wings' obsession with hitting these monetary targets echoes a point made by Hutch about the daily and constant battles to survive in the gaming space.
You know, I really did need to take like a minute for myself and not feel the pressure that comes along with doing this sort of job, because there's like, you're like fighting to live in this space, you know, every day, and that might not sit well with people that think that this job is just this cush job that's just easy all the time and low stress. But I'm here to tell you that it is a very stressful job in ways that, you know, I'd never been stressed like this before. You know, once you build something up like a social media presence or a YouTube channel or a Twitch channel, once you build it up and it's gotten to a point where it's like, you know, it's a thing, it's like a big thing, then all of a sudden you got something to lose.
In this sense, the promise of streaming is a double-edged sword. Not an easy job, not financial success, but consistency in exchange for a daily fight for views and income. And this phenomenon holds true across many games. Take former StarCraft II pro gamer Vibe, who switched to streaming from pro gaming not because it promised financial success or an easy job, but steady earning.
Yeah, the way I always tell my stream is when you're a pro gamer, you're kind of gambling in a way where you can prep, you can prepare, you can work your ass off. You can like put yourself, you can even mentally be in a really good spot, and you might just not perform on the day that it's needed, and then you don't make any money. Like, you can't really support yourself anymore. Or basically you just like you just have like no financial stability at all, and you have to like sacrifice all these other aspects of your life. Like, financial stability is so much more realistic as a streamer, because as a streamer it's really just like you're consistent. If you're just consistent and you're just being yourself, you'll always, I feel like, usually generate like an audience that will just support you, and you're just there. It's just more realistic to be a streamer.
Like COD, StarCraft II saw an explosion of views and interest around 2010, and then a steady decline over the next few years. Likewise, its leading personalities had to find new means of earning an income as time went on, if they didn't fade away altogether. Unlike a gaming tournament you might or might not win, or a YouTube video that might or might not blow up, streaming presented an opportunity for steady earning. And that, for most, became the goal.
Yo, you Allah. Voila. Thank you very much for the sub. Appreciate the 5 months. Welcome back. Smile.
In this view, setting aside comments and allegations directed towards him of a personal character, Wings wasn't an exceptionally greedy streamer. Everyone needs to hit financial targets, so much as a self-destructive and depressive one who would ruin his brand by harping on his financial incentives, thereby losing subscribers and donors, ironically enough. Thus, Wings' unraveling underscores two important tensions inherent to streaming professionally. One, the tension between short and long-term relevance, and two, the tension between providing carefree entertainment with video games and and the reality that this is how you feed yourself and pay your rent. First, the point about short and long-term relevance. This tension stems from the twin pressures to remain consistent in the near term, but adaptive in the long term. A moderately successful streamer in the day-to-day needs to be reliable, predictable. You have a set schedule, a core group of fans, you show up around the same time and mostly play the same games. You're consistent. Your fans know what to expect from you, and vice versa. If you're hitting your dollar target for each day, then you're surviving, if not thriving. However, say you're getting by right now, making the $150 a day you need to pay the bills. You already stream about as much as you can tolerate, 6 to 7 days a week, 8 hours a day. On the one hand, the worst thing you could do is start changing things up on your fans. They like to know you'll be there at the expected time playing the expected games. On the other hand, you've noticed that this time last year, you were averaging more like $190 per day, and the year before that, more like $250. You know your game's audience is shrinking in popularity, and your fan base is slowly drifting away. What do you do? If in the next year you reach the point at which you can't survive financially, won't you regret not jumping ship now? Why aren't you trying to evolve with the times? But when should you adapt? Harder still, how? Similarly, there is an inherent tension between your job being to entertain others, being high energy, interactive, engaging, fun, and the fact that this is, well, your job. Streaming is hardly the first or only profession in which one is responsible for filling the free time of and providing relaxation for others. For example, TV writers have long been in a similar position, and their strikes have highlighted the fact that they don't just create TV shows and movies, they essentially program the lives, the daily routines of many thousands of people. However, with streamers, unlike unionized writers or casts of actors, this responsibility to entertain is more constant and is born alone. You need to go up there in front of the webcam and make the audience happy. To the extent that you fail, whether you're having a bad day, don't feel well, or playing poorly, that's a responsibility you incur. And if it's not going well, and if people aren't liking your content, the accompanying financial stress is likewise yours and yours alone. No union to fall back on, no boss to complain to. Moreover, even loyal fans probably don't want to chill by listening to you gripe about your financial woes. Make a habit of complaining about this unhappiness and stress, especially around the remunerative targets of donations and subscriptions, and you could invite a vicious circle of your bitterness driving away fans, which in turn makes you more stressed and embittered. Keep doing this, and you might just go the way of Wings of Redemption. In looking back at this history, which is really a partial history biased by my own interests and perspective, one can nonetheless see how, over the course of a decade or so, gaming for a living went from a fantasy to a moonshot dream job for a few pioneers, to a gold rush, to an increasingly corporatized, institutionalized corner of the gig economy. This series of evolutions is neither wholly good nor bad, in my mind. For this profession to be stable, it needed to outgrow the random, chaotic, unregulated DIY scene that was early gaming YouTube.
Okay, I've been playing fucking Call of Duty for fucking 17 hours straight. I'm so fucking upset.
Yeah, not the image of gaming advertisers or sponsors wanted to see. While the forces of corporate regulation and moderation have stifled a lot of content and sapped some of the scene's freeness and spontaneity, they have also organized the play video games and people watch you fad into a sustainable profession, and one that has attracted thousands of participants. The drift towards / need for routinized, corporatized, and high-effort consistency in gaming as a job has made streaming and playing video games for money anything but the impossible childhood fantasy it once was. That is, it's no longer impossible, but does not live up to a fantasy. You can do this, but it is not easy, or always fun, or risk-free. It's no coincidence that with the institutionalization of gaming as a career, particularly in the form of streaming, it has begun to resemble more typical jobs. Long hours, financial targets, strict schedules, stress, bills, self-doubt, and at times, desires to quit.
What is he doing? If you don't beat this in 5 days, you owe me a kiss.
The challenges in this career choice also don't end in the present. Even if you're thriving in whatever streamer, YouTuber niche you now inhabit, you have to think about your long-term relevance in a marketplace that is constantly being disrupted and remade. The net result is a contradictory and often difficult career choice, one that urges consistency of effort and maintenance of rhythms on a day-to-day basis, much like a normal job does, while also demanding you be on the lookout for the latest trend, game, bandwagon, gimmick, or disruption to adjust to, so as not to be made obsolete. In other words, you have to be both a tireless grinder and a spontaneous innovator. You're the workhorse in the cubicle putting in the long hours, and the ideas guy in the head office making inspired decisions. And given the unavoidable publicness of the pursuit, the alienation it creates is heightened by the nature of the business model. Failure and disappointment, depression and resentment, all are broadcast and recorded, shown to thousands or millions.
I had a bad fight with my wife this morning because she is viciously upset about all the things that's going down, and she wants me to quit, and I don't know how. I'm at a point in my life where I have to choose between my wife and the only thing I know how to do to make money.
This risk, the risk of building something only to lose it, slowly and humiliatingly, is hardest of all. If gaming for a living is comparable to working on a TV show, this is like your show getting canceled due to low ratings, except the show is you. And people, maybe after a year, or maybe after a decade, decided they didn't want you. But hey, this is the nightmare scenario, not a foregone conclusion. And ultimately, for the many happy content creators with healthy mindsets, whether they're part-time hobbyists or well-known influencers, streaming and content creation more generally is not just stress and misery. More often than not, it's fun. Yes, there's stress and bills and tedium, but the fact that gaming is fun is like the whole point. And despite all I've said, this isn't a contradiction. If you look at the people who can manage this profession for long stretches, the enjoyment has to be there. From hobby to side hustle to full-time gig, when done right, this occupation is launched by passion and inspiration, and it's propelled daily by a love of gaming. And in that way, modern gaming content creation is not so different from those early days of shaky camcorders aimed at TV screens. Because through it all, the whole project, the whole activity, the whole goddamn industry is driven by and premised on fun. And while the thesis of this video, if it even has one, goes something like, gaming for a living has become just another job, I would add that this form of employment, unlike others, necessitates that you get some joy out of it if you want to succeed. If you can do that, if you can balance out the stress and drudgery with a love for what you do, then the whole equation makes sense. The entire project becomes worth it. If you can't, if you find yourself hating video games and hating your life, then there are easier, healthier jobs out there. No one starts doing this expecting to loathe it, and you should quit if that's where you wind up. So, as corny as it sounds, I believe for this occupation to be healthy and sustainable, fun, more than views or money or influence should be our North Star for viewers and creators alike.
There we go. I'm gonna get you.
Yeah, I think it's just best just to run past all the monsters. What's that red on the floor?
Go back to bed. Go back to bed. Right there.
But
That's amazing, dude. You should leave it like that.
that's what I'm saying.
I have been doing the YouTube and the interwebs thing for about 11 years, and now I have found my way to Twitch, where I actually have been for like 7 years.
So sluggish. This kind of reminds me of
Treyarch. I actually do feel sorry for Treyarch because they've had to fix Sledgehammer's bullshit 2 years running now. Anyway, Vanguard's first real zombies, man.
Take care of cats and things like that. Trying to spawn people with a shotgun.
That's smart with the pistol. Yeah.
No, I would not divorce
That's
Kelly for
actually-
$10,000. I would not divorce Kelly for $100,000. Kelly is an asset to my life.
$1 million?
No.